Welcome to Midnight Story, where every quiet night hides something that should never be found. Tonight's story is The Elevator That Stopped at Floor Zero. So dim the lights, put on your headphones, and remember, if the elevator bell rings only once, keep your eyes closed. I stopped using elevators because of what happened at Alder House. The building had 14 floors, one lobby, and no basement. I checked the plans afterward. Beneath the foundation were only concrete, drainage pipes, and earth. But at 3:17 one morning, the elevator display showed a number I had never seen before. 0. The doors opened, and somewhere beyond them, a woman with my voice asked a question I still hear in my sleep. Which one of us came back? I was 32 and worked the overnight shift as an emergency dispatcher in Seattle. Alder House stood 6 blocks from the harbor, a narrow brick tower built in the late 1960s. I had moved into apartment 814 3 weeks earlier because it was cheap, quiet, and close to work. Most nights I arrived home after 3, when the lobby lights were dim and rain pressed against the glass doors. The only person awake was the night concierge, a thin older man named Mr. Vale, who always seemed to know when I would arrive. On my 4th night there, Mr. Vale asked whether the elevator had ever stopped between floors. I said no. He looked toward the brass doors and lowered his voice. If the display ever shows 0, close your eyes before the doors open. I laughed because the building did not have a floor 0. He did not. Keep them closed until you hear 2 bells, he said. Not 1, 2. I asked what would happen if I looked. He folded his hands on the desk. Then it will know what to send back. The warning stayed with me for 2 nights. On the 3rd, I entered the elevator at 3:16 a.m. and pressed 8. The car rose normally past 2, 3, and 4. Then the lights flickered. The motor stopped. The display went blank before a green 0 appeared. I closed my eyes as the doors slid apart. Cold air moved across my face. It smelled like wet concrete and old dust. 1 bell rang. Somewhere outside, shoes crossed a tiled floor. They stopped in front of me. A voice whispered. She listened this time. I kept my eyes shut. Another voice answered from farther away. It sounded like me, but tired and breathless. Then don't let her hear the 2nd bell. The footsteps came closer. I held the handrail until my fingers hurt. After what felt like a minute, the elevator bell rang again. The doors closed. When I opened my eyes, the display showed 8. I stepped into my hallway and found everything where it should be. The carpet, the yellow wall lights, my apartment door. I told myself exhaustion had turned a stalled elevator into something impossible. The next afternoon, I asked the property manager about Mr. Vale. She stared at me as if I had used the wrong name. Alder House did not employ a night concierge. The lobby desk had been decorative since the building changed owners. I showed her where he sat. She said no one had worked there in years. Then she pulled out an old staff photograph. Mr. Vale stood in the back row, wearing the same gray suit. The photograph was dated 1989. Beneath his name, someone had written, "Missing after elevator malfunction." That night, I took the stairs. So did I, the night after that. On the 3rd night, the fire door on the 8th floor would not open. I tried the 7th, locked. The 6th, locked. Every landing door had sealed itself. Behind me, the stairwell lights began turning off from the top floor downward. I ran to the lobby, but that door was locked too. Then the elevator arrived behind me with a soft chime. Its brass doors opened. The car was empty. On the display, a green 0 waited. I stepped inside because there was nowhere else to go. The doors closed without me pressing a button. As the elevator descended, the numbers moved in the wrong order. 8, 7, 6, then 12, 4, 9. At 3:17, the display became 0. I remembered Mr. Vale's warning and shut my eyes. The doors opened. One bell rang. This time, the voice outside sounded frightened. My voice. "Maya," it whispered. "Open your eyes. You need to see what it's sent upstairs." Then I heard my apartment key turning in a lock beyond the doors. I opened my eyes before the second bell. The elevator faced a lobby almost identical to Alder House, but older. The walls were covered in dark green tile. Rain moved upward across the windows, gathering in clouds instead of falling. The front doors opened onto a black street with no buildings. Along one wall stood hundreds of brass mailboxes. Every label carried my name, Maya Brooks, apartment 814. Some were clean, others were scratched, faded, or darkened with age. At the concierge desk, Mr. Vale watched me beneath a lamp, looking more tired than surprised. "You looked," he said. I asked where we were. He pointed toward the elevator behind me. Across the lobby, a second elevator stood with its doors closed. Its display counted through impossible numbers. "This place keeps the part of you that hesitates," he said. "Every time someone reaches home, there is a moment when they could have arrived differently. Most people never notice. The elevator does." A bell rang inside the second elevator. Mr. Vale stood quickly. "When those doors open, do not let the other one reach your elevator first." The second elevator opened. A woman stepped out wearing my navy work jacket, black pants, and rain-darkened shoes. She had my face, but her expression was calmer than mine. She looked at me, then at the elevator behind me. "You should stay," she said. Her voice was the one I had heard before. "You're tired. I can finish everything." She knew my apartment code, my supervisor's name, and the unfinished message on my kitchen table. She even knew the final emergency call I had taken that night. Then she repeated my last sentence to the caller, word for word. Mr. Vale opened a drawer beneath the desk. Inside were dozens of security photographs. Each showed two versions of the same resident standing in the lobby. In some, one person was blurred. In others, both faces were clear. The dates went back decades. The final photograph showed Mr. Vale beside another man identical to him. "I waited for the wrong bell," he said. "The version upstairs lived my life for 37 years. I stayed here and warned whoever came next." My double was already walking toward my elevator. One bell rang above its doors. Mr. Vale said the first bell opened a way back. The second decided who belonged on the other side. If my double entered before the second bell, the elevator would return her to my apartment and keep me below. If I entered first, she would remain. I ran. She did not. She only smiled and said, "Ask yourself why you remember closing your eyes the first time." The words slowed me. I remembered the cold air, the footsteps, and my own voice, but I could not remember the elevator carrying me from 0 to 8. The second bell began as a mechanical click. I reached the elevator As my double placed one foot inside, we stood face to face in the doorway. She did not fight me. She leaned close and whispered, "One of us already went upstairs 3 nights ago." Then the bell rang. The lights went out. I grabbed the brass rail and pulled myself into the darkness. The doors closed on the empty lobby. When the lights returned, I was alone. The display showed 8. I stepped into the hallway and found my apartment door open. Although I had locked it, inside, the kitchen light was on. A mug sat beside the sink, still warm. My wet shoes were already on the mat. On the table was a note in my handwriting. "Do not take the elevator again. I moved out before sunrise." Later, the property manager sent me the lobby camera footage. At 3:17, the elevator doors opened. 2 women wearing my clothes approached from inside the car. The picture broke into static when the bell rang. When it returned, only one woman remained. She looked directly at the camera and smiled before walking upstairs. That happened 11 months ago. I live in a different building now, on the 3rd floor. I use the stairs, even with groceries. Last night, at exactly 3:17, I heard an elevator bell in the hallway. My building does not have an elevator. When I opened my door, 2 brass doors stood across from me, where the blank wall should have been. The display showed 0. 1 bell rang. The doors began to open, and I heard my own voice from the darkness. It did not ask to come out. It asked softly, "Maya, are you sure you were the one who came back?" Thank you for listening to tonight's Midnight Story. If you enjoyed The Elevator That Stopped at Floor 0, subscribe and join me again for another quiet journey into the unknown. Until next time, keep the lights low, trust your instincts, and if you hear an elevator bell where no elevator should be, do not open the door. Good night.